Time now to take a look through the day's papers, and with us to review them this morning is the psychotherapist Lucy Beresford and also the author Emma Wolfe. Lovely to see you both again. Lucy, we'll start off with you this hour. You've gone from coverage inside the Mail about yesterday's derby at Epsom, and we spoke to some of the protesters beforehand. One, it seems, was arrested actually on the race course. What do you make of what happened there yesterday?
I think it's a very interesting story as it's reported in the Mail, because they give no attention to what the Animal Rising protesters are saying or what their belief is about why they wanted to protest at this particular event. And it's very much about the fact that the protest was foiled, that in fact, as you say, there was only one protester on the race course, and then there are lots of photographs of celebrities or Priti Patel, if you want to call her a celebrity, as one of the guests. So that it's one of those stories where you don't really get very much information. What I've found over the last few days is that my own view of this particular story has shifted, that actually there is something strange for me about horse racing as a sport and the care that the horses have. And I think it's very important that people have that conversation. Now, whether you actually try to disrupt the race, which could put horses' lives in danger, I don't know whether that's a really good idea. The Jockey Club have said that actually horses would have been endangered if the protest had gone ahead. But the protesters say that actually the sport itself is putting horses' lives in danger, and that a lot of horses do die during the course of the flat and the jump season. So I'm intrigued that this particular story in the Mail doesn't really touch on that aspect of the story at all. It really goes for the triumph of the fact that the protest was foiled and what amazing dresses all the women are wearing. And I don't know whether that's really the right balance.
I mean, I suppose that the other argument is that the protesters were given a space there to protest, so that all of those going to Epsom could have seen their concerns. They had an area close to the entrance, didn't they, that they could. So it's,
yes.
You know, they were, in a sense, being allowed to take their message to those who were there.
Yes, they wanted to highlight another thing, which is that they felt the security wasn't very strong, that actually there was a place where the general public could have access to the racecourse, which is how one of their protesters got onto the racecourse. So they had another message out there, which is the industry is inherently unsafe. That was one of the things they wanted to say. And there may have been other coverage. You yourself on Sky were talking to the protesters yesterday. So yes, it's not as if they didn't get their message out there. But this particular story, the way it's been framed in the Mail, is very much about, yes, the protesters are wrong and the race went ahead. And I think there's a bigger conversation that needs to be had about horse safety.
Okay. Emma, let's bring you in here. You've gone for the front of the Observer. This is about Rishi Sunak's Eat Out to Help Out scheme being criticised. It's being called spectacularly stupid. Who's saying this and why?
Yeah, this is the president of the BMA, the British Medical Association, Professor Martin McKee, and it's, as you say, Jane, he's not just stupid; he's spectacularly stupid. He's under scrutiny. Rishi Sunak is under scrutiny because, as you remember, he was the Chancellor during the pandemic. So his role and his actions during the pandemic are under fire. This kind of escalating COVID blame game, as the inquiry gets underway, finally. They're now they've turned their attention to his role in this Eat Out to Help Out scheme, which is actually thought to have caused quite a sudden rise in the virus. The president of the BMA is saying it was spectacularly stupid. It may have been good or beneficial for the economy, but it was a very, very bad idea in terms of virus transmission. The BMI has also criticised the way that the government overlooked scientific advice during the pandemic. And this all comes in the sort of quite a febrile time, the Cabinet Office's refusal to hand over Boris Johnson's WhatsApps, the Prime Minister at the time, and then Boris Johnson going ahead and handing messages and diaries directly to the Cabinet Office going to court to challenge Lady Hallett's demands from the inquiry. I mean, to me, this begs the question, where is this inquiry going? Why is the focus on Eat Out to Help Out right now? Is it going to answer, how long is it going to take? It's going to take years and years and years. Is it going to answer any of the questions that many of us would like answered about lockdown and about government policy during the pandemic, but also answers, more importantly, from the bereaved families?
Yeah, and it's going to be a long time before those answers come, isn't it, Emma? It also perhaps points to the relationship between Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak and what's also going on behind the scenes. And Lucy, you've chosen the next story, The Telegraph, inside story. Sunak's going to meet Biden in the US, and you're quite focused in this piece, as well as focused on where he's going to be staying. Biden's rolling out the red carpet, isn't he?
Yes, there's often a lot made of whether we have a special relationship with America or not. Joe Biden didn't attend the coronation, not that apparently in terms of protocol that was very unusual, but critics wanted to make something of that, to say that perhaps the special relationship wasn't as strong. And now, apparently, we have really firm, concrete evidence that the relationship is fantastic, because Rishi Sunak is going to be staying at a 14-bedroom property, as if under any other circumstances he might end up in an Airbnb or something, or staying with mates. That actually,
he's got some quite fancy houses himself.
He might. This may well be
in the past.
So for him, 14-bedroom mansion might actually be really small beer. I don't know, but we are given chapter and verse as to what this house represents and how it highlights this red carpet that's going to be rolled out for Rishi Sunak. And I think that's just another dimension of geopolitics. Is people are always reading the tea leaves in these kinds of things. You can't just have a visit. You've got to try and work out how many bedrooms the property has got to try to justify whether the relationship is as strong or not. And that just seems a little bit daft to me.
Okay. Emma, a story inside the Times for you. This is about Rowan Atkinson, who's a real petrol head, isn't he? And this is about cars being more green, how he thinks we can be more green. Of course, he's famous for being Mr. Bean, isn't he, in that banged up old Mini?
Yeah. He is a self-confessed petrol head. He has an amazing collection of classic cars himself. He's got Bentleys, BMWs, Rolls Royces, and even an Aston Martin. But now, slightly hypocritically maybe, one might say, he's imploring the rest of us to keep our old cars for longer, which makes sense. He's saying, the electric car revolution, all the promises of the electric car, kind of, the new future, hasn't come to fruition. It hasn't proved to be. The technology is not there yet. He bought an electric car, I think, about 9 years ago, and he has actually got a degree in electrical engineering, electronic engineering as well. But he feels that the technology is not there for electric cars yet, and that actually keeping old cars for longer, more than 3 years, because the average car is kept for 3 years. And he's saying a car that costs £15,000 to make and he's got rid of, basically sold on after 3 years, could keep going for decades. And I agree with him. I think reuse and recycle is a much greener message than keep buying new technology, keep buying the latest electronic car, all of that. So
the mantra that we all had in the 80s, wasn't it? Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Good on Mr. Bean.
Indeed.
Reuse.
Very, very quickly, because we've only got 20 seconds left. Lucy, pink paint. We're running out, apparently. Why is that?
Because there's a movie coming out called Barbie, which, as you can imagine, is all about pink. Greta Gerwig, who's the director, had a very clear vision of what she wanted, a very particular hue of pink. And so she used it all up. They tried 100 different colours, and now they caused a shortage of this particular colour of pink. Go see the movie. It's going to be fantastic.
Coincidental that it's promoting the movie as well. Lucy and Emma, thank you both so much for taking us through your choices this morning. Great choices. Thanks a lot. Lots more to come on Sky News Breakfast. Stay with us.